Nightreign is an incredible game, and I've put a lot of time into it, but Nightreign is also the single most repetitive roguelike I have ever played. They don't lean in nearly enough on the randomness factor of a roguelike, especially when you look at the hardest content. I'd love to keep playing this game all the time. The boss fights are incredible, the characters are fun, and it is a great twist on Elden Ring's combat, or really the Souls combat in general. But they've put very arbitrary limits on how random a run can really be, and what I'd like to see the game do to keep players playing as they add more content. Now, first of all, what this video isn't, is saying that Nightreign isn't worth the price. I've gotten more than $40 worth of value easily, and the Everdarks are free content, but I've found that the more I play the game, there is one consistent problem that I have, and it's that Limveld is very repetitive. And part of that has to do with how they've set up their random events. Whenever you queue up for a game, there are random events. These can be Margit invasions, bubbles forming that require you to fight a mini-boss version of Augur, and so many others. The problem with these random events is that most of them can only appear on 1 or 2 Night Lords. Now, this would be a great way to keep players from getting overwhelmed with numerous new mechanics. Unfortunately, what this also does is make it so that if you don't like fighting a particular Night Lord, you're probably never going to see some of these. Did you know that there are walking mausoleums in this game that let you duplicate a weapon? I'd say that some of you don't, because they only appear for Augur and Caligo. And the Everdarks don't improve on this. The Everdarks don't add new special events, they only make the final fight harder. This means that Day 1 and 2 is essentially free for people that have been playing the game for a while. Why not, for the Everdarks, make more seeds that have more options? A lot of the fun of a roguelike is in the fact that you will have runs that you just can't win. Well, maybe you could if you're insane, but most players won't. In Nightreign, it almost feels like they were afraid of leaning too much into the randomness in case that was the case. But how do other roguelikes get around this? Well, one of the most common ways is that you have a difficulty setting. Now, I know Fromsoft is usually kind of allergic to these, but the way that these work in a roguelike is after you've beaten the main game, once or twice maybe, or it can be unlocked from the start sometimes, you unlock a new difficulty that is significantly more challenging, more random, and usually has some more content. Now, for this, I wouldn't expect them to make too much more content. What I'd like to see is stuff like fighting an extra night boss not being limited to only Gaping Jaw and Fulgur. Hell, give me a version of this game that can just keep rolling for fighting more night bosses. That would be so cool. Have a chance, albeit a small one, that there are no churches that spawn in on the map, so you have to make do with only 3 healing. Like, obviously you don't want it to be so random that you can't play the game at all, but surely they can find a new system than what is currently there. Because what is currently there, and this is going to pull back the curtain a lot, so if you're just having fun with the game and you think it's great, maybe don't listen to this part, but there are only 20 different map variations for every single Night Lord, with 5 additional ones per Shifting Earth. What this means is that you can easily memorize what happens in a Shifting Earth. You have a 20% chance of getting the exact same seed if you just fight the same boss, but also that it's easy to just go to a website and see where you're spawning in and know exactly what your run's going to have. That feels like such a waste compared to other roguelikes. Between that and the highly limited special events, the game just starts feeling very monotonous. There is also the limited number of bosses that can spawn for any given Night Lord, about 3 different ones for Night 1 and 3 different ones for Night 2. As much as I love the game, I'm never surprised by what happens, because for any given Night Lord, I more or less know exactly what to expect. Using Binding of Isaac as an example, because I'm pretty sure that is the most popular roguelike that's come out in quite a while, or at least full roguelike, not a game with just roguelike elements. There isn't just a hard mode, there's also multiple branching paths to secret endings you can take. And there are special challenges in that game that you can do that will unlock you more items. All that on top of having their different unique characters. Now, characters in Nightreign are more unique, but the game still just feels repetitive because of a lack of changes in the world itself, a lack of randomness. On top of that, there aren't very many crazy broken item combinations that you can get. In a normal roguelike, your power level tends to vary extremely dramatically. In Nightreign, I feel like Raider can solo most of the final bosses with just his skill if you're patient enough. This doesn't mean the game isn't fun, but it makes it hard to be excited to play another round when you know what to expect. I've really started noticing the lack of map variety with the Everdarks, since while they're active, there's no real reason to vary up what you're fighting. This makes it pretty easy to see the same seed multiple times in a row, not to mention just the ease of getting to the Everdark Sovereign tends to feel a little bit grating after a bit. Like I'm just doing a chore to get to the final boss, and none made me feel this more than Augur. Because with Everdark Augur, not only are you fighting the same two knights just to get to the boss, but by the time you finally get there, your build more or less doesn't matter. This is what really made me stop and start thinking, man, why am I not enjoying playing through Nightreign runs at the moment? Because it's not the Souls combat, it's not the final bosses. No, the problem that I'm having is that the randomness just isn't random. When I'm playing a roguelike, I want an element of, holy, I can't believe that this just happened. This seed was insane. I want to share this with someone. Like when you're playing Noita, which is another roguelike that I've been enjoying lately, which I've been playing because I want to make a video on what makes for good RNG in a game. Noita has a mechanic called a fungal shift. Basically, you get really high and reality itself warps, and something turns into something else. And some of these can be cursed. You can have all of your water turn into acid and just start eating through the floor. And you might say, that sounds terrible, and I'd have to agree. But it is also incredibly fun and funny. I never get those moments in Nightreign where I go, oh, I need to show someone this seed. They won't believe it because most people have seen it. I've never had a situation where I'm fighting the Augur raid and Margit jumps in and decides that it's his turn to fight too. And moments like that are what make roguelikes so memorable. Let me just take it back for a second. If the reason the game is designed as it is because eventually they want to add a hard mode, and they didn't want to overwhelm new players who are already having to learn a new system with these crazy combinations, then I get it. I can even agree with that. It's just, with the Everdark content, why not open it up a little bit? At least with the special events. Let them be truly random. Like, I don't want a hard mode where just all of the enemies are harder to kill and deal more damage. That'd be maybe cool to see, but what I really want is for the game to just throw more stuff at me. Have random wandering enemies. Have field bosses be more aggressive. Make more enemies function like Margit, where they'll chase you throughout the map. Because that's just cool. Add more item effects that are unique and fun. Hell, lean into the random aspect like I said, and you could even have multiple shifting earths active at once. Wouldn't that be hilarious? I don't think you should be able to choose to have that happen like how you can with one shifting earth, but I would love to fly into the map and see the Shrouded City, the Scarlet Forest, and the mountaintop and just go, oh my god, I need to screenshot this for my friends, they will never believe me. Because that type of crazy stuff is what makes a roguelike. And, this is probably going to be DLC, but damn, I would love an extra map. Now, look, this has been free content updates. I have to stress again, I'm not mad with what the base game gave me. But if they're going to keep adding content and try to keep supporting this game and get new players in, then this is what I think they'll need to do. The Everdarks are really cool, but after I beat them once, I just don't really feel like fighting them again. And it's not because they're bad, it's because the day 1 and 2 are getting so repetitive. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. I'm sorry if this video came off as a little bit negative. It's meant to be more critique, but I understand that there is a fine line. So I want to say again, I love this game. I think it's worth the money as is, But if they want to keep pushing updates and try to keep it alive like a live service game, then it needs to lean more into the variety that roguelikes are known for. RNG videos should be coming probably like 3 or 4 days from now, and then I'm actually going to do a video on Marvel Rivals because the latest character is an incredibly neat design, and I want to talk about that. So that'll be interesting because it's my first time talking about a specific character design in terms of how they play, and not an overall system design. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, until next time, see ya.